I could go on and on about how Halo CE changed the gaming landscape or how I consider it one of the greatest games of all time, but that's for another video. Today, myself and SirTsav take on Halo CE LASO, widely considered one of the more tricky of the LASOs Halo has to offer. Quickly, let's break down LASO for those who may be new to the challenge. LASO stands for Legendary All Skulls On. CE on Legendary can already be a bit challenging, so throwing on skull modifiers just makes it so much more fun. CE has a special skull that makes this challenge perhaps the hardest of all, Foreign. So this skull makes it so we can't use any Covenant weapons at all during the run. You may not think this is too bad, but a specific level makes this skull the worst thing to be ever created. We'll dive into that later. Another unique skull to CE is Grunt Funeral, which is when you kill a grunt, they explode with enough power to even take out elites, so that would be essential for LASO. With the challenge laid out, let's see how hard is it to complete Halo CE LASO. As we begin our LASO journey, it's important to note that whenever we die, we will lose a piece of our HUD. For example, at the beginning we can't see how much health we have, but later on we might not be able to see our shields and so forth instead. So our first part is simply getting to the bridge and receiving Cortana from Captain Keyes. Our first challenge is to make it through the cafeteria, and the best way to do that is using the Grunt Funeral skull to take out large groups of enemies. We grab ourselves some overshields, which gives us a whole 2 layers of shielding as we move through the autumn. In our particular room with stairs, I don't know what to call it, we face off some unusually smart elites who actually went out of their way to get some angles on us. Continuing on, we say some final words for the escape pods that get absolutely demolished instantly and move on. The maintenance tunnels proved to be a bit sketchy since grunts patrol all over, making the tunnels mini nuke reactors. SirTsav got the short end of the stick more than once in these tunnels. A single elite halts our progress for quite some time, but we eventually make it through after some passionate discussion about which Halo species we'd have relations with. Using some more grunt nukes, we make one final push and make it to the lifeboat, escaping the Pillar of Autumn. So, before we dive into the second mission, Halo, we actually powered through the entire mission on our first try, but at the very end, my power goes out and all the progress is wiped. So on our second attempt, we crash land on the mysterious Halo ring. We cross a bridge and make our way up a ridge until we come across a Forerunner structure. This part is basically wave defense as Covenant ships drop off multiple troops for a bit. The giant rock we hang out on does wonders taking out troops, and after a little bit we head back to the ridge from earlier to try to hit a despawn. Waiting in this spot for around 4 to 5 minutes, we think it works, but it ultimately fails. We take out the stragglers and hop in the Warthog to traverse the Halo ring. We find a structure that's not a natural cave formation, and inside we use the hog as a stepping stool to activate the light bridge. Narrowly escaping fire, we cross the bridge and make it to a massive open area of the ring, and kudos to Bungie because this open area was insane for its time. Anyways, our mission here is to try and save Marines spread all over the ring. Going from structure to structure, we need to take out all the Covenant and we may or may not take out some Marines along the way. We make it to our final destination and use the Warthog and a Sniper Marine to take out the final few waves of enemies. The Sniper Marine while in the Hog is basically John Wick, so this final part is a piece of cake. Echo 419 arrives and we hop inside the Pelican to wrap up the second level, Halo. Few LASO levels come to mind that have truly broken us, but Truth and Reconciliation I'd argue is a top 5 hardest LASO level ever. Remember the Foreign skull? Well, most of the mission takes place on the Covenant ship, Truth and Reconciliation. Obviously, not being able to pick up Covenant weapons is a huge problem. The first part of this mission is pretty cool as we get to act like stealthy snipers. However, we get caught almost instantly, so it's more of the same, try to take out grunts so they explode and take out large groups of enemies. We travel up the ridgeline where the Covenant have set up defenses and work on taking out as many enemies as possible, but also keeping an eye on our ammo especially. We need to take this outdoor section pretty slow and carefully since the turrets can melt us in an instant. As we go through, we arrive at the Truth and Reconciliation lift where wave after wave after wave of enemies drops down and we must defeat each and every one. Our plan here was to attract the enemies to this tighter valley area and use the rocks to head glitch like in COD to get melees and such. This section took a while and it was a ton of trial and error, and finally the final wave of enemies drops, including 2 hunters. Without magnums, we can't simply one-shot them, so we take our time and piece them up and they eventually fall. Now, the mission finally begins. Boarding the Truth and Reconciliation begins one of the most annoying, irritating parts of any game I've ever done. Defenseless, we are ambushed by invisible one-shot hitting sword elites who are way faster than we are. They also happen to be gold elites, so bullet sponges. Enjoy this montage of how much fun we had doing this part.
One died over there.
There's another sword!
No, why? Come here!
Assassin, you got melee. Oh, damn it. Dude, how? Oh my god.
Too close.
Jojo.
Yo jumped at you. Oh shit.
Assassinate him, no problem.
Oh shit.
So let them, once they do. He killed both of us in one swing. Behind you, he's behind you, he's behind you.
Oh. Yeah, watch.
Bitch. After a painstaking amount of time, we came up with the plan of going inside the door of one of the sword elites and basically hid from all the enemies. We spent, I think, a solid hour hiding, peeking and taking shots, hiding again, and rinse and repeat. We need to completely clear the middle room, and at one point 3 gold elites just randomly charge us and wipe our progress, so we start all over again. Back in the tunnels, and after another painstaking amount of time, the room is finally cleared, but then hunters show up, of course. But they are a huge problem to deal with this time around. We can finally move on deeper into the ship, and I use an active camo to drop to a lower section of the ship and move further in. We make our way inside of a hangar, and this is where I hit a crazy trick. Not because it's difficult, but because I've never done it before this LASO attempt and I nailed it on my first try. The setup is simple. We just grab the OS and stay on top of some boxes, throw 2 grenades and a well-timed jump, and boom, a huge chunk of the level is skipped and tons of enemies are despawned. We make our way to the cells to free the captured Marines and Captain Keys and must fight our way back to the hangar. With no tricks here, we brute force our way, taking out enemies in their way and successfully escape the Truth and Reconciliation. Time to storm the beaches of the Silent Cartographer. Instead of helping out Marines fight, we do a 180 and fail tremendously trying to take out a group of jackals with some nades. The general game plan from here on out is to slowly make our way up the ridge, taking out enemies along the way. We arrive at a structure where 2 hunters are waiting for us, and we can take out one for free with our magnum and circle the second one and do the same. We both grab the OS and restock ammo before continuing. As we go, taking out tons of enemies, we eventually arrive at the mat room and activate it. This will open up the door to the main building we need to get to soon. We grab a flipped hog by a pelican and just send it inside the structure, splattering as many enemies as we can. We make sure to park the hog in a specific spot, which will be helpful later on. So we have to make it to the bottom of the structure, and we can avoid a ton of enemies by either taking them out silently or just walking past. We save an active camo for later, as this will be helpful for our ascent. We activate the Silent Cartographer and get the location of Halo's control room. Now we just make our way all the way back to the top. With a combination of the active camo that lasts seemingly forever and using the infinite ammo glitch with the rockets, I'm able to climb all the way back to the top. At the top though, a gold sword wielding elite awaits us, but luckily we can cheese him to oblivion by standing in a specific spot and meleeing him till he dies. Using the Warthog we parked earlier, we can storm out of the building and take out a bunch of enemies and clear the LZ for the Pelican. We hop in and that wraps up the Silent Cartographer. So assault on the control room is up next, and I'll be blunt. All we do here is drop down from the bridge to basically skip a huge chunk of the mission, despawn all the enemies. So the jumps themselves are pretty tricky since you have to land in a very tight spot so you don't die from fall damage. After the initial drop, I have to do another jump that's just awkward to be honest. You jump outwards, then go back in and face the wall, and eventually I get it to work. After that, I carefully slide down the mountain and find some Marines and a Warthog that will let us just drive through the mission. Back on foot, SirTsav grabs a Banshee to fly all the way up to our destination where we hit some loads. We use Banshees yet again, open the massive doors to Halo's control room, ending the mission. Next up is one of the best missions in all of gaming, 343 Guilty Spark. The mission begins in a swampy area and we must enter a supposed weapon cache where Keys and his squad have gone missing. We head inside the structure and fire our way through, taking out grunts and jackals, with elites noticeably missing. We find a Marine who is clearly scared beyond reason, so we end his suffering. We finally make it to the weapons cache and head inside, finding a recording of Private Jenkins, which I'm sure everyone will know. Once the recording ends, a new faction has officially entered the mix, the Flood, in what I consider the most interesting part of Halo. So infection forms aren't a problem, as you can melee one and it sets off a chain reaction destroying the others. Combat forms, however, can be a pain as they can Street Fighter combo you and wipe your shields and health out in an instant. Our goal here is to escape the structure while the flood begins to spread all over the place and the ring itself. We hop on an elevator thinking we're safe until it takes us even deeper into the structure. Fantastic. Using the boomstick, we can handle flood a lot better now, and we make it to the elevator that takes us topside, but it's not over yet. We have to go through the swampy jungle and just hang out until the sentinels arrive and we meet 343 Guilty Spark, the monitor of this installation, and the end of this mission. Time for the most infamous Halo level, I'd argue, the library, and man, oh man, just absolute pain. The first trick we need to do here is some well-timed nade jumps to skip most of the first part as it's crawling with flood. A big part of our plan was to test just sending it and using flood carriers as bombs to just take out all the scary combat forms. We don't have much trouble making it through the first level and take the lift up. Of course, the monitor can't open doors instantly, so we have to hold our ground against seemingly endless flood until the door is opened. Traversing the tunnels of doom, the sentinels are here to help. They are an excellent distraction, so we can sneak around some flood to save what little ammo we have left at this point. Holding our position yet again, we do some nice little jumps and we're close to finishing the Gauntlet of Pain. I won't lie here, this part I kinda just grazed over holding the position. Took us a solid 30-ish minutes of attempts. You get absolutely swarmed by flooding carriers just nuke you away. Anyways, we need to clear out some flood that are actually guarding the next part of this mission, which is a whole challenge in itself. Once again, we arrive at a door, but this time around we can hide from the flood. Once the door opens, however, the flood are all over us again. With the help of sentinels, we take care of a huge group of flood to make it up another lift. We enter more tunnels of pain and arrive at the final part of this mission, and guess what? More flood. It's actually ridiculous how many flood are at this part. It's like they were congregating just waiting on us. This area took a few attempts, and after killing every single flood, we opened the door and I was actually shocked we beat the level. Not because it was difficult, but because I always felt the library was much longer. 343 Guilty Spark takes the index from us and the library is in the books. Ah, good old 2 betrayals. The mission starts off hot with Sentinels and Covenant doing battle, and we're right in the middle of it. We start off by hitting a little despawn to make it safely outside, and we use Banshees to destroy Wraiths so we don't have to deal with them later. We then need to hit some load zones, and we make our way inside of a structure where we take out some Covenant that's hanging around. As we go deeper, the Flood have arrived and this mission becomes hectic. Eventually we make our way to a bridge and cross it where more Flood are awaiting us. This part was insane. The flood seemed endless and they would just bum rush us from all sides, so we had some trouble. We went with the plan of using the tunnel to our advantage, but it did not go as planned, sadly. Finally, we pretty much clear the room and turn the corner, and Looney Tunes style, a rocket flies at us, Mach speed, and it's rip.
Go. Watch for elite. Far side. Oh, dead. Oh god!
We claw our way past this part finally and have to now cross a flood-infested bridge. After progressing, we take an elevator down to get deeper into the facility. We meet some dancing flood and make it outdoors where we just send it to grab a Banshee. We need to navigate through rocket flood-infested tunnels and have to go on foot from here on out. Back outside, we need to carefully grab a Banshee guard by Covenant. It's a bit messy, but avoiding Wraith shots, I'm able to grab a Banshee and fly up to the final pulse generator and activate it to wrap up 2 betrayals. The mission keys is up next, and this is a piece of cake. SirTsav was in charge of hitting the flood bump, and he nails it, so I patiently wait for him to progress through a big chunk of the mission. He does, and we find Captain Keys has been turned into a proto-gravemind, RIP. We need to fire our way out of the Truth and Reconciliation, and that's easier said than done. Wave after wave of flood attack us, so we need to take out pretty much everything before we can move on. Going through the tunnels of the ship, we make it to the shuttle bay and escape the flood-infected Truth and Reconciliation, wrapping up the mission keys. Finale time, and we're back at the Pillar of Autumn. Our goal here is to destroy the ship to destroy the Halo and ultimately the flood. We take our time moving through the ship since it is covered in flood. The Covenant and even the Sentinels are here now, so it's a party. I'll be the one to say it, but this level is hard as hell. The Floods swarm like they usually do, but the Sentinels, having shielding that resists our UNSC weapons, are complete bullet sponges. We make it back to the maintenance tunnels and somehow a hunter is inside, but we think he was just hit inside by a flood. Crazy stuff. We make it to the reactors and we just need to destroy all 4 of the fusion cells to begin the destruction of the Autumn. Using rockets and nades, this part isn't too bad, but more so annoying since the Sentinels snipe you. After destroying the fusion cells, we use an elevator to begin our escape of the Autumn. Fun fact, the Black Elite and Grunts we fight here actually have a whole backstory in the book The Flood. Give it a read sometime. We make it to the hangar where we find the Warthog and it's time for our final run of the game. SirTsav took the helm of driving and we for sure struggled for a bit, flipping or just crashing. We make a huge jump and we're only 300 meters away and it's a battlefield of flood. We chose to go on the outside of this final part to avoid the flood and rush to the ship and escape the Halo ring to wrap up Halo CE LASO. Next up is Halo Reach, so look out for that video soon. And if you haven't, feel free to check out my Halo 3 LASO video as well. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to drop a like and maybe sub to the channel. Thanks so much for watching.